Hey everyone, I'm Brant, and I currently live in China. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of introduction of myself and the workshop that's coming up. So this is my website. So I guess all of you coming for the portraits I did recently. So I do a lot of studies. Before that, I was an illustrator at BOT Communications, where I do movie poster comps. So basically, stuff like this. This is a sketch for Venom 2. So we do a lot of these. That's where I got a lot of, the skills to paint likeness and doing a lot of quick sketches, gesture stuff. And that's where I learned how to draw draperies and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we work really fast paced. So we had to do a lot of sketches. Sometimes it's like this kind of stuff, you probably had to do like a couple of them in a day, then you have some other smaller sketches to do. So that's where I learned how to work fast and efficiently. And yeah, but right now I'm after moving back to China, I'm actually working as a 3D character artist. So I also do, 3D stuff because I always had a passion for form and, just uh, anatomy, form, portraits. So going to 3D is like learning sculpting, So that's why I did that. So you can see this is all the kind of stuff I do. And after doing 3D and working in the industry for a bit, I started doing more portraits because, I'd never had time to finish a portrait while I was at BOT. And doing 3D is cool, but my passion is really in painting. So recently, especially this year, I started to push my painting skill even more because I want to do these more realistic finishes. Because I mean, eventually I might want to get into more expressive stuff, but before that, I want to make sure that I can say what I want to say. You know, that's why I start doing a lot of these studies, and now I'm teaching a workshop that's coming up, sharing what I learned from these studies. So yeah, just a little bit about the workshop. It's going to be a 4-day workshop. So we're going to really focus on specific topic like gradation and edges. So ideally, when you sign up, you already have some kind of, painting experiences because we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about how to start. Um, so, so yeah, so for the schedule, for the first day, we're going to explain how to start a painting. But it's a really dense topic because there are a lot of ways to start a painting, and you start to talk about shapes, constructions, a little bit of anatomy, a little bit of everything. So it's really hard to cover all that kind of stuff in one day. That's why I want to make sure that you guys understand you want to know a little bit of that information beforehand to actually take this. But don't worry because to do a realistic painting like this, observation is still the most important stuff. So so even though you know shapes, you know construction, you still have to be able to observe, and that's where a lot of artists kind of lacks because a lot of time they rely only on understanding, and they forgot to observe what's actually there. So that's what we're going to talk about on the first day. And the next day will be the sexy part of a painting, which is gradation and edges. And that's what makes your painting look cool. And we're going to talk about how to communicate all that stuff and where to use different type of edges. What is edges to me? Uh, what is gradation? All that kind of stuff. And on day 3, we're going to talk about smaller shapes. Well, in theory, adding smaller shape is the same thing as using gradation and edges. But for some reason, when we reach a certain level of a painting at a certain stage, and we started pushing it to a more realistic painting, we start to get into the mindset of copying pixels, you know. So I'm going to talk about how I deal with that, and I'm going to show you some images of some of the process. But yeah, it might sound simple adding smaller shapes, but it's where a lot of the um, a lot of us struggle. Uh, Not really technically, but mostly mentally, because we cannot see details as shapes. We see them as, details. So I'm going to talk about how to deal with that. Then on day 4, we're going to do a final critique so everyone can finish their own study. So ideally, because we have 4 days and each day we focus on one step of a painting, ideally you're going to do one painting and finish it, but you can also start, 2 paintings and just do them simultaneously, and you can get 2 finishes at the end of the workshop. But that really depends on your level and what you're comfortable with. So right now I'm going to show you some process images that I have, just to go through a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff I talked about. So on day 1, we're really going to do this. It's a simple start, and it's really personal because everyone do this differently. For me, on this one, I try to focus on being efficient, just capture what I see with least amount of stroke possible. But in the workshop, I'm going to show a more careful way of starting a painting with some line drawing, you know, more like how we do figure drawing and that kind of stuff. But yeah, on this one, like I said, the start of the painting is really personal, but you have a few goals. You want to capture the shapes, you want to capture the values and the general gesture of this portrait, so that in the later steps, you can start refining them. Um, and in the beginning, you might be a little bit stressed out because you see all these smaller shapes, and you're scared that if you don't capture it in the beginning, you might not be able to do it later. But I'm going to show you how I deal with that, because if you focus on the bigger shapes, all your smaller will naturally fall into places, their own places. But if you forget about the bigger shapes, smaller details will just fall apart. So that's actually day 1. It's a really important. It's a really important day, but it doesn't seem like much. But on day 2, we're going to talk about how to go from here all the way to step 4 of the painting. Because with gradation and edges, your painting starts to look realistic with form. The form started turning, and a lot of your edges start to work together. And that's where a lot of the magic happens. And so it seems like a huge jump, but it's actually very simple stuff we do. It just, one good decision lead to another, and it leads to a result like this. So at stage 4, this is where a lot of us sometimes probably stop. For me, before I start to push this kind of finish, this is what I considered a finish somewhere here, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, so that's why we have day 3, where I talk about how to go from here to a more finished level. And that's where a lot of us start to struggle, because we start zooming and start copying each pixels, and I'm going to talk about how to deal with that in the class. So yeah, this is the last day. You go from here to the final painting, and you can really push it as far as you can. But you have to pay attention to, the relationships we established in the previous stages. Because a lot of time when we start painting pores, we forget that there are like more important relationship, like the cheekbone or the overall egg shape like of the head, we start to lose those, and by losing them, our finish starts to look weird. Um, so yeah, that's what we're gonna do in the workshop, and I'm gonna show you another one that I did. There's a funny story. I tried to upload it to if you know Kara, it's a human-only website for art, and I upload this one, and it flagged it as an AI image. So I don't know how to feel about that, but I guess I should feel good because it means they think it's too polished. But yeah, made me think. But see how simple I start in these paintings. Um, so yeah, it's just slowly build up to a more complex finish, and every single step you do, you kind of just add a little bit more to it, but with good decisions and stuff. Like bad decisions lead to a bad finish, and good decisions lead to an overall good finish. So yeah, that's it about the workshop, and I'm gonna start doing a little demo. I started it because the first step, even though it looks simple, I really have to spend at least 20, 30 minutes on it to make sure everything is captured correctly. So in a 1 hour demo, I don't want to spend too much time just copying, trying to capture angles and all that stuff. That's why I started it early, and you guys can follow along to see how you can deal with edges and all that kind of stuff, which is the theme of this workshop, right?
Is Can I ask a quick
So
question though? Like,
oh
when
yeah,
you are
of
doing
course.
this, why does it take you so long, and what are you looking at that makes it take like a little hot second?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, depends on the time you're gonna spend on a painting. If you're only gonna spend 1 hour on a painting, I'm probably not gonna spend too long because it will be considered a sketch for me if I had to finish a painting in 1 hour. But because we want to spend, 10 hour, 20 hour actually pushing the finish, you want to make sure that everything is captured as accurately as possible. But that's why I try to make sure I actually set a limit for me. Like I have to spend at least 20 minutes on it because uh, even for experienced artists, the more time you spend on, capturing angles and shapes, the more accurate it's gonna get. Um, that's just uh, that's just basics, right? It's really common logic. So that's why I actually force myself to spend at least 20 minutes on this kind of stuff because I know I'm gonna pay for it if I don't do that. I mean, sometimes I get lucky. I spend 10 minutes on one and it end up looking accurate. But most of the time, you're gonna regret spending not enough time on a block out like this. Uh, but yeah, even with 20 minutes, I'm probably not 100% accurate. But the point is, you want to be, you want to be as accurate as humanly possible without, gridding it out or tracing it, just to train your eyes to see different angles. Um, so yeah, that's why I spend a lot of time on it. It's probably not necessary for everyone. It's just something I do for myself. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna start the painting, but I'm gonna go over some of the brushes I just shared in the group because they seem suspiciously simple, I think. So yeah, this is actually the brush I use for the majority of the painting. Is this basically an airbrush with some texture to it. Um, and I actually just change the size of the brush to get a sharper edge. Then I slowly, increase the size to get that gradation going. This is how I do most of my paintings. But for the blockouts, I have this basic blockout brush. So it's a hard brush because you want to get solid shapes and solid uh, edges to actually see your blockout. You don't want to use your airbrush and you don't see the shape when I draw. You see, the shape looked too fuzzy for me. So when I block out, I actually use this hard brush. But when I start doing edges and adding smaller shapes, most of the time I'm not going to use I'm not going to use a block out brush and put a hard stroke on my painting because that kind of breaks the illusion of three dimensionality for me. Um, so you're gonna see what I mean. I'm just gonna start. You guys can follow along, and I don't use smudge brush actually. I made these, but they're not. They don't do what I want specifically because you see when it blends equally on both sides. But most of the time, I want to bleed one of the shape into the other, so it doesn't do that for me. Um, that's why I don't use it that much. So when I use my airbrush, I get 100% control over my shape and edges, and I'm responsible for it. And when I train, I I, I love to do that. So yeah, I'm gonna start painting, and you guys can follow along. And Angela, if you if you see some question in the chat, you can tell me, and I'll
Yeah, for
answer
sure.
it.
They're a bit shy
Yeah.
right now, but once they start painting, I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Just follow along and just, ask questions. I love answering questions. I actually go out of my way to do painovers for people in my chat sometimes, because it also helped me improve as a artist. Just identifying problems, um, and identifying strength in other artists helped me grow. So yeah, you see, I'm just slowly turning this one sharp edge into a smooth gradation. And that's what we do for, the second step where I build a gradation. And that's where all the three dimensionality happens. And when the gradation started to take shape, um, I started to see a 3D form where I can sculpt on top of it. You know, even right now, it's like when you're sculpting, you got a piece of clay and you start smudging it with your thumb. That's the type of um, analogy I use when I do this kind of stuff. But also notice I'm not softening everything. I'm intentionally leaving some of the edges sharp and smoothly transition it into a soft edge. And that's where a lot of people, don't do when they do edges. And they get that, I don't know what to call it, but it's like an equal, super even edge. The entire edge is just this one softness or harshness. And it doesn't really happen in reality. That's why I try not to do that and always look for ways to change things up. You know, even with gradation, a lot of time, it depends on the style you work in. But for a realistic image, there's no flat values in there. Uh, you know, because with lighting and everything, light has a fall off, right? So even on a flat surface, nothing is flat. You always have some kind of gradation going. And on an organic surface like a uh, human face, it's going to be gradation everywhere. It's going to be changes everywhere. Like from here, there's a darkness going up to here, and I can see from the nose there's a bright area, and it's slowly transitioning to this half tone, and then it's brighter right here. So it's constantly changes. It constantly changes. So you want to look for all that stuff to make your painting realistic. Uh, and that's why I don't block out too many shapes in the beginning, because when you block too many in, when you start doing gradation, you lose a lot of them, which is not ideal. I don't want to do the same work twice, you know. Of course, depends on the style you're working and the job requirement. Is I can also start with a line drawing and just paint all these gradation underneath it to get similar results. Um, but yeah, I don't really enjoy working in that style because I like to see my form slowly take shape. Um, that's why I do that. I do this kind of stuff. And it doesn't mean you don't draw, you know, you can always draw. Like for me, I will also put in my center line. It's like a sculptor when they sculpt, they constantly redraw their center line to make sure that everything's aligned. And I also flip my canvas, which is a really good tool for digital artists. For traditional artists, they had to use a mirror, and I just can't imagine doing that because digital Photoshop is really easy because your reference almost flip. It's always flipped as well, so you can compare them both ways. Uh, just to make sure that you're keeping, you know, symmetry is really hard. Just making sure that you're keeping track of it every single step. But yeah, I try not to do too many line drawing because you see, when I do lines, I started. Uh, I don't know. It starts to lose that kind of um, realism. So I had to fight to lose the line drawing. Um, that's what I'm trying to do right here. Is for me, when something is like equally sharp, say right now I put in my block out brush, now both sides of this shape is sharp. That doesn't really happen on the organic form. Most of the time, it's sharp on one side and it gets soft on the other. That's why line doesn't really work in this situation because line is basically a really small, sharp shape, and it has sharpness on both sides. So when I have a line like this, I had to like make sure one side of it transition into the shape, you know, something like that. But yeah, I try not to zoom in and out too often. But when I do my own paintings, I constantly zoom in and out, and it's really annoying to look at. Um, so right now I'm just adding this cast shadow right here. Yeah, it's hard to jump around the painting. And ideally, you don't add too many shapes before you really refine what you have on the canvas, you know. And if you're following along, I think when I block out this shape, I make it too high. Uh, so if you just move it down a little bit, that will be that will be better. Um, but yeah, you see
Right?
this one,
Sorry,
yeah.
could I ask a quick question? Because this is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on working from like life versus a photograph?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I miss working from life. Um, because with photograph, you can basically copy angle to angle and shape to shape, and the model never moves. So you're only really training the skill to observe and, you know, recreate what you see. But with life model, you actually have more challenge to deal with because the model always moves. Even when they breathe, the stomach and the rib cage will move, right? Uh, so you actually have to understand a lot more to be able to do the stuff we're doing right here. Because with a 2D image, you don't have to understand form, you don't have to understand perspective or construction. You can literally just copy shape to shape and value to value, gradation to gradation, uh, because that's what a image actually is, just shapes and gradations, right? So you can literally just copy that and you can get a realistic looking painting. But when you see a live model, you actually have to understand what's going on and being able to recreate what you see um, on a canvas.
That's a
So
really
yeah, that's
interesting thought.
yeah.
Like, I also wanted to like piggyback onto that too then. So
Uh-huh.
I was wondering, like, I know you do a lot of like structural drawings for portraits and everything, but
Yeah.
you think when it comes to like photo studies and this class, it's more about understanding the shape relationships, right?
Yeah, it's more about understanding what an image or a painting actually is.
Mm-hmm.
To its core, it's just shapes and gradations. Because a lot of us don't. Because for me, I just from I'm just speaking from my experience. I learned construction, I learned all that stuff, anatomy, and I still couldn't do a realistic painting for a long time, right? And I was struggling with it, and that's when I realized I'm not even thinking about the image. I'm just constructing, you know. But when you stop and think about what an image actually is, um, it become a little bit easier to design abstract shapes and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that construction doesn't work in here because I still put in my center line. I'm still keeping track of my symmetry. Um, but construction, anatomy, and all that information perspective, for me, it just helped me see things. But when you communicate what you see, you're doing a painting. So you have to understand how to communicate those information in the form of a painting. That's how I understand it.
Well, thank you so much.
uh, yeah, I actually think a lot. I mean, my thoughts might change uh, after a while, but that's my current understanding of what we are doing. So yeah, while you are doing transition, there's also one element you had to pay attention to, which is um, which is texture. But that's why I use this textured brush, right? Because you don't want your values to be flat, neither. Like I said, the value is constantly changing, and the texture is actually constantly changing as well. So normally in the shadow, I'm going to put in a lot more texture because when you paint on a canvas, a lot of time you don't put a lot of paint in the shadow. You cover it, and some of that texture from the canvas actually shows through. And when you get to the light area where you put thicker paint to blend and all that stuff, some of the texture get lost. So I want to create that kind of contrast. That's why I'm intentionally leaving some texture in the darker areas of my painting. Um, this way, it doesn't look too stiff. Like some of the area right here, it gets a little bit too flat for me. So I'm gonna fight to get some texture in there by picking a lighter value from around it. Yeah, you have to pick a lighter or darker value to create a texture. If you only pick the color right here and you paint over it, it's gonna start to get flat. Um, It's like painting with a it's like a pencil. When you think about what this brush actually is, it's just cross hatchings, right? It just does cross hatching for you. So it's basically drawing with a pencil. So I'm gonna get that gradation from the neck. And I'm really interested in what some of you are doing right now because I talk a lot, but I'm curious to see if some of you want to share your paintings in the chat. I'm
Yeah.
really curious.
If you
Yeah.
guys want to drop in a work in progress to show us how you're doing on the Discord,
Yeah, just
I'll let you know if anybody posts anything. They're probably
yeah,
too
yeah,
shy.
yeah. Because don't be worried. Because I don't think I can get too far because this takes time, and with talking and answering questions and all that, I don't think I can get too far with it, but I really want to see if you guys understand some of the stuff I talked about, and by looking at your painting, you can probably give me a better idea, like what I need to explain more. Because it's simple stuff like gradation, texture, and all that stuff. When you do it, and when you try to communicate it accurately, it's very complex, you know and it takes a lot of experience. For me, I kind of forget how I started. You know, when as I learn more, and everything I learn, it just built on top of other things I learned. So eventually, it becomes something kind of intuitive. Um, so I don't know. I don't remember like what I didn't understand when I started. You know.
Kate dropped in a work in progress. So did
Oh,
Jeff.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. I'm gonna take a look, but I'm just gonna work on this area, this one piece of,
That hair looks really
small
cool.
shape. Yeah, it's really sexy to me, so I had to
Yeah.
work on it. But okay. All right, let's see some of your paintings. Do you mind if I put it on my screen?
No, feel free.
Asking
You should.
Kate and yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think Erin is also going to upload theirs. There.
Nice, nice. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Um, Wait, how do I try? Do I have to copy it? Copy image.
You could also just drag your Discord over if you just want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess I'll do some painting on it, but not just putting it together. So I I've it's took me a lot of time to find where this legacy, new document window is. So Photoshop keeps changing things.
There is a setting that you could do to
Yeah, yeah,
revert
yeah.
it
It
back,
took
but
me a
it's just
while.
yeah
Yeah,
annoying.
yeah. It's so slow. It had to like load a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it used to
Um,
be just
Poods
easy.
also uploaded after Erin, so there's 4 people who submitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, since you guys are the fastest, I'm just gonna look at yours. You guys, and the rest of you all, the rest of y'all can keep painting, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about because I already see some cool stuff happening, and I also see some of the issues uh, with this brush specifically, because it's it's basically an airbrush, and a lot of people have problem controlling the airbrush. And now you add texture on top of it, it become really complex, you know. So whose is this? I think this is the first one. So Kate, yeah, I can see that you understand um, what's going on, but you see you start to lose the texture that I was talking about. So by bringing in some of the texture, it start to look a little bit more dynamic. So yeah, texture relationship is actually a very important relationship that don't get that people don't discuss enough. Um, See, just by bringing in some texture in the shadow, we kind of activated the shadows. It starts to look a little bit lighter, a little bit more alive. You know. So yeah, something like that. But also you want to pay attention to the edges. Like right here, it actually transitions smoothly into a soft edge, where on yours it's a little bit too quickly, it transitioned too quickly. You know? And on here, because we have a hard edge here, I usually put another hard edge to balance it. Um, it's kind of like when you figure draw, you draw lines like this, you know. It happens with edges as well. So your eyes see this hard edge, and then it goes here, and you need something to guide it back into the face. That's why I will pick this one to to actually polish and figure out. This way, it has a nice gesture pointing back to the face. So yeah, you see, just a lot of those information I learned before, but when I paint, I don't really think about those. It become a little bit intuitive to me. Of course, I still think sometimes, but when I do critique for others, or someone asks me for help, I start to remember some of the stuff. Yeah, gesture is important, form is important, construction is important, everything is important. It's just that we are only focusing on one aspect right now. So this one is, yeah, so Kate, really, really nice job. Just keep painting along, see how far it can go. But I'm gonna move on to, is it G? Is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce
Jeef,
it?
or it's Jeff, but he
Like
likes to be
beef?
called Jeef. Yeah.
Okay.
Can
All
you
right.
save these
All
later
right.
and, like, post it on the Discord after you're done too? I think it'll help them.
Oh yeah,
After
of
you're done, yeah.
course. I'll just remind me. I sometimes I have a bad habit of just closing windows without looking. But yeah. For Jeef, um, you started adding a lot of smaller shapes before you establish the overall gradation. Um, that's why some of the light areas start to look spotty, you know, because when you add smaller shapes, it has to have some kind of relationship with the previous grade, the bigger gradation we established in this step. Like right here, let's see. Right now, I can start doing some small shape if I have that big gradation, because even though you see a light uh, right here, you see it's super bright, and this is bright, but overall the brightness right here, it will be darker than here, and it will be darker than here, and it will be darker than here. There's still that kind of fall off happening. That's why we established this larger fall off before we start adding in these smaller shapes. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to organize them. When you have a lot of shapes and you spend a lot of time rendering the edges and rendering, the forms, and then you realize all that kind of stuff has the wrong values. I mean, for Photoshop, it's you have tools to fix that, but ideally, when you paint as a painter, you wanna build your painting, you know, logically, so that you know how an image is constructed. You don't want to be a image editor, you know, or it just I don't know. You're not a compositor, you're a painter, right? So you want to make sure you know how to think like a painter. That's why we don't, even though I can just render mindlessly and save it with Photoshop. I don't do that. But yeah, you see, same thing with the shadows. And another important thing is that you don't put equal amount of information in your light and shadow. You actually want your shadow to be a little bit more simplified. So if you have a lot of stuff in the light, this is not a lot, but even though if you have it, you want to make sure a shadow is like one step behind your light areas, if that makes sense. That's how I think about it. This way, you always make sure that your shadows is a little bit more simplified than your light. See here, it's the same thing. You don't need all that. Um, you don't need all that information. You see, you only need the bigger gradation. Same thing with the mouth. It's actually a very common problem. when I was learning, because I, I want to put in the mouth before I establish the cylinder of the tooth, the teeth, right? Because when you construct the painting, it's actually it has a teeth cylinder going on, so it has a form like this. So if you skip this and go straight into the mouse, a lot of time what happens is that your mouse become flat because your mouse actually uh, lay on top of this cylinder and it's round and it comes in and out, you know. So yeah, that's why when I paint, if you see my painting, I haven't get to there, but if I do it, I will make sure that I get that two cylinder figured out first. So I will paint that cast shadow from that cylinder, you know, and I'll get that light on the chin. That's the bigger form that we had to worry about first before we get into, you know, more specific detail like lips and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Jeef, very good name and very good painting. Just keep painting. Yeah, let's see what happens later. I'm
Wait,
excited.
take a
But
screenshot and just upload it before you forget,
oh
just in
yeah,
case
yeah,
you
yeah,
close
that's
it.
true. That's true. Yeah. That's true. I'm gonna take a screenshot. But yeah, thank you for reminding me. Um,
I love what you
yeah,
said about the lip and then just the big shapes and just chiseling more and more. It
yeah. You
was
have
really
to like,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. It's even more frustrating when you start sculpting. You know.
I don't wanna imagine it.
Yeah. When you start, because yeah, I sculpt in clay for a little bit because that's really unforgiving. Man. If you don't put in the major forms and you start sculpting lips, you know how long it takes, but you had to redo it. Like most of the critique is just like wiping off all the details and restart. So you don't want,
I don't even wanna think
yeah.
about marble.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I don't even know how to do it. Same thing with wood, all that kind of stuff. It's like you have to know it so well that you just automatically, you know, do that while doing all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So wait, whose one is this? Whose is this? Earring? Earring? Is it how you say it? Sorry, I'm a little. If you don't know, English is not my first language, so I'm especially bad with names that I don't recognize.
Yeah, it's Aaron,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm really bad with it because we in English class we only have the common ones, you know, like Jack, John, all the J's for some reason, Jerry,
The juicy
yeah,
names.
yeah. Yeah, so Erin, yeah, for you for this one, you actually want to look at some of the area right here. It starts to be a little bit messy, and you start to lose the illusion of form. Because when we do a head, you have to think about you want to think of an egg, and a head is basically an egg. So it's not that different from painting this. You want that smooth gradation from here to here. Um, So that's basically what a head is, what this one is doing. So that's what I'm painting. Um, it is distracting when you start to see, there's these details going on, the cheekbone, stuff like that. But those forms, if you think like a sculpture, is it again? It's built on top of the major form that you established. Um, so yeah, I really when I teach other students, I actually use a lot of 3D software because I teach 3D students as well, but I teach them how to draw. So I use 3D software to demonstrate. some of these ideas. But see, if you had an egg like this, you just put some clay on top of it, it will start, you know, you start to have more forms. That's how you build. That's how you build the forms. You know, you don't go straight for the smaller shapes. Again, a sculptor wouldn't. Um, so we don't do that because we really want to do what a sculptor do. You know what a sculptor does. Uh, they they build their major forms and slowly adding smaller forms. But yeah, see how that just cleans things up. And because lights come from this side, so this one area will be a little bit brighter. Uh, because light come from here and it hits, you know, the side plane and the nose, you know, that's why we have a gradation coming from here. And just by doing that, we we have a cleaner form to work from. So yeah, thank you, Ari, for sending me this awesome painting. Just keep doing it, and yeah, we'll see what happens later. But but yeah, it's really hard to control the. I mean, a lot of time it's the tools and a combination of understanding tools and all that stuff. So for me, it was hard to control this brush as well because you know painting with an airbrush is weird, but it forces me to think about the stuff we talked about because with a normal paintbrush, let me find one with something like this. It's so versatile that you start to do a bunch of stuff at once and you don't think about like
I
for
think
me because
that's
I
still Aaron, sorry.
oh
Yeah,
really
oh, yeah, I think you didn't
is
get
it
G
oh,
Poods? There you go.
wait, I think this is Poots.
No, Poods doesn't have the stroke.
Wait, are you guys just is it?
Yeah, Poods is the
Oh,
one with
okay,
the
okay,
super
I
stroke,
see, I
yeah,
see.
okay, cool.
Yeah, let me copy the image. Yeah, I think I pasted it twice. Is it this one? Is it?
That is
Oh yeah.
Poods,
I
yeah.
see, I see. Yeah, I see. Oh yeah, that's like why is it so similar? The problem. Yeah, but yeah. Um but yeah, with foods, yeah, I'm just gonna continue with this. The reason we don't use something like this, I mean, I think with pools is actually a good example, is that without the knowledge of gradation and that kind of stuff, it's really hard to for someone who know what they're doing, they can communicate anything with this kind of brush because they have control and they have a really good amount of knowledge. Uh, but the reason I use a airbrush to study is that it forces me to think about all that information because I cannot just block out, just throwing a bunch of shapes and figuring them out later, which is how I used to paint. But but yeah, by painting with an airbrush, it forces me to think about the logic of a painting, how to build form, how, to, how the hierarchy works. Um, so with Kuz, um, I think I don't know. I think you're using your own brush or you're using the blockout brush. I don't know. It's really harsh, um, but you actually have a good gradation going. You just need to go in with a. You just have to go in with an airbrush, with this brush, and just really communicate the form. Communicate what it's doing. Because with harsh edges laying right next to each other, you're telling me this face is like faceted. It has a lot of sharp corners on them. which is not what's happening right here. So you want to, I mean, for realistic painting, if your goal is to make it look realistic, you want to think about that kind of stuff. But I know there are a lot of style that don't do it. You only use sharp edges and stuff. Um, I do that as well, but for realistic studies, if your results needs to be as close as to real life as possible, you want to think about how the gradation works between different shapes, the quality of it, because some when you start introducing textures, it's another different thing. Uh, that's why we actually study sculptures first, because sculptures you don't when you're painting sculptures you don't deal with stuff like different materials, local colors, local values, and different type of hair and different textures like wood or metal or all that kind of stuff. You don't have to deal with that in the beginning, uh, so you only think about form and edges. uh, but once you know how to do this, uh, painting painting a realistic portrait, it's actually not that different, because in the end it's still shapes and edges, right? um so yeah. Okay, I'm gonna screenshot this. But yeah, thank you again, Poots, um for sending me this image. It's really helpful for everyone to see uh some of the common issues, and actually a lot of you guys are actually doing a good job, you know with sh- because I provided the block out. You guys are doing a good job of following along and just doing a lot of stuff we talked about. But yeah, these are some of the common issues I see in other students as well. So it's really helpful that you guys send in the work and we can talk about these. Uh, but yeah, it's it's not like you can just figure it out in one night. Uh, you had to practice. You had to do a lot of repetition, a lot of failures. Failure is a part of learning. So I never, when I fail, I never really take it too hard. You know, it's it's a part of my learning process. Because even I'm going to show you guys this. Even with this demo, I actually practiced a couple of times just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. And by repeating it over and over, um, uh, I learn how to talk about it, because that's kind of hard for me before. Uh, so I actually talk while I do these so that I can communicate my thoughts. So that's something I'm working on. And with painting and everything, it's the same type of mentality. You just repeat and practice, you'll get better. Um, so yeah, let's see. We have a little bit time left. Let's see how far I can go with this one.
Well,
Um,
and if you guys have any questions, please type them down. I think this
yeah,
is a
yeah.
really good
Please ask
opportunity.
questions. And you want more time with me, you can sign up the workshop for the workshop. We're gonna go over all this kind of stuff in more detail, and yeah, I'm gonna spend more time critiquing your work, and you're gonna have more time working on them. Um, so yeah, for in my experience, a lot of the time, people can go from zero foundation and paint something like this in a short amount of time. Because, like we said, painting something from an image is really different from painting from life. Because a lot of time in an image, you just look at shapes and transitions, and you can get a good result. Uh, oh, which body part is the most difficult to paint for me? Okay, okay. Uh, I saw that question. Let me think. I think head is actually ears. I don't know.
Yours are pretty
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, but that's why I'm really proud of this one
Yeah,
because
that ear is really good.
yeah, that's why I'm proud of this one because you know what? I don't even think about an ear when I painted it. I just look at shapes and edges and say, oh, that's a lot of really cool transitions I never noticed before. If you only think about constructing the form, you're gonna miss a lot of those things. But thinking about it more abstractly actually helps me see a lot of things that I didn't see before,
Like
and it helps
crinkled
me
meat.
simplify it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for the longest time, ear is something that I was afraid to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that one, I'm like, yeah, I see what it is. You know.
Sarah has a good question. She was wondering how you're going to
Uh,
tackle the screen left eye, the one in shadow, because it's like all in shadow. Do you think you could quickly maybe paint
oh
that
yeah, yeah,
area?
yeah. I can I can put it in. Um, but yeah, if I show you what I did before, this is what I did, but I'm gonna explain what I did here. So in the shadows, because most of the stuff are soft and lost, we had limited amount of sharp edges we can use to define some of the stuff. So when I'm looking at it, I see that there's a shadow right here. There's a darker, the hair is a little bit darker behind the brow ridge. So I'm going to use that to outline that, to outline it. And something right here is a little bit darker as well. The hair is a little bit darker than the forehead. So I'm going to use that shade to actually separate it. And then you can see it's catching a bit of light, the brow bone. So I'm going to use that. So I'm just looking for clues that can help me to, bring out some of the areas. You don't want to draw an outline. I think my shape was off, but but you don't want to draw an outline in the shadow like this. That's not a tasteful way to deal with this kind of stuff. You want it to be mysterious. So you only give the audience some hints of what's going on, but you leave most of the stuff to their imagination, right? Especially in the beginning, where a lot of stuff is a mystery even to the artist, right? Um, so yeah, that's how I deal with it. But yeah, I guess I had to spend more time, figuring out the placement of stuff because right now it's obviously off. But yeah, that's if you look at what I did before, that's actually what's going on. Uh, you see, I just use a little bit of what's going on here to kind of outline what's going on, the brow ridge and the cheekbone right here. But I don't want to give you everything. I don't want to, just go in and start outlining it, which make it appear less, graceful. I guess. Hope that helps. Um, but, yeah. But placement is a huge thing because every time you add in a shape, you want to think about the placement of it, obviously, uh, and its relationship, the edge relationship, the value relationship, a lot of stuff we have to think about when we're adding a shape. Same thing with the jawline right here. I'm actually gonna, put it in like this with a darker value. Um, but yeah, overall, your shadows have to be a little bit softer than the light. Uh, any more questions? We can probably do one more.
Not no questions so far. Well, I have a question. Are you gonna add those weird patterns in afterwards? In the
Weird
back behind
patterns.
the figure? Because I feel like it's a nice
Oh,
contrast. Like,
these?
yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like it's,
Depends on
like,
the
such
time,
an
I guess.
interesting, like, pattern that complements the I thought that's why you chose this one, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have time to finish it. But yeah, if I do, I would think about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
But for me right now, it's just like a plane that's like it's like has a nice gradation from dark to light,
Yeah.
and then the wall is lighter. For me, I'm only seeing that right now. Uh, but yeah, I'm actually working on another painting. Maybe I can show you guys. Let me see. Where is it? This is an earlier stage. But yeah, I was painting this one, and this one has a lot of stuff going on. But you see how I started it? It's still very abstract and very simplified. And even though I separate the character from the background later, in the beginning, I want to paint it on one layer because it helps me think about the relation. Because it helps me to think that the background is a part of the character. So when I paint them on one layer, I can work on different type of lost edges on the silhouettes to get some of that cool effects. Like, let me see the steps. Where are the steps? Oh yeah. See, a lot of these silhouettes has soft edges that bleeds into the background. If I keep them on different layers, it's hard for me to think about that. It starts to feel like I'm building something, instead of painting it. So that's what I did for these. So slowly, I just slowly build them up, and later I do separate them out because when you start dealing with hair and all that kind of stuff, you don't want to keep them on the same layer. But yeah, uh, hope that hope that helps as well. Because a little bit of it, I don't know what we are talking about, but I just want to show you guys
Um,
how I
th
usually work.
that was really cool.
Yeah.
But there is one more question, but, like,
Oh yeah,
who
yeah. Let's
yeah,
do it. Let's
who
do it.
are some other artists who you feel paint the style well, or who are some of your inspirations?
Oh, okay. Do you guys know the YouTuber is Sub is the Breck? Is that I think I can pull it up, but there are a lot of artists that a lot of Chinese artists actually work in this style. That's why I feel lucky that I'm in China and I get to learn from them. Uh, but the one that actually got me started is the Breck. She has similar style, and she actually talked about a lot of the information I did. Um, but I think she focused more on form. But yeah, watch her. It's really nice. A lot of cool insights. Um, and there's also, let me see, a lot of Chinese artists like uh,
Yi Zhengke? Or
yeah, but there's like those traditional guys who don't get talked about a lot. Let me see. I had to search in Chinese because I don't think you can find any results in English. But you see these hyper realistic paintings, oil paintings. Um, this guy is really famous for doing this, but it's not like the detail that's attracting me. It's the fact that he did so much detail and still keep the overall relationship really good. You know, it still doesn't look like a over rendered piece, and actually look more like it doesn't look like a photo. It looked more like what we see because he actually paint from real life. So that's really helpful. So I'm just gonna put this name in the Discord channel so you guys can search. But but yeah, just look at his work. He's really good at this kind of stuff. And this is his quicker sketches. So he does all this kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, this this is amazing to me. Not because he paint all the pores or all these texture on the sweater. It's just the fact that he has so much control over what he's doing. And also, the common a lot of the popular ones right now, like Yi Ke, and he's actually teaching soon. Um, I might sign up, but those classes are like huge. So, but yeah, these guys are really good. You can see he's a lot more expressive, and you can see how you can learn a lot from how he used texture and all that kind of stuff. And you just put it in. Uh, and there's also yeah, I look at a lot of traditional artists because I feel like I can learn more because they don't have the convenience of a digital tool, so their decisions are more, I don't know. Uh, I really like this guy. Uh, I really like this guy, not because um, yeah, technically it's really great. It's also like the emotion he's trying to communicate. Uh, for me, I just sense that kind of loneliness in a lot of his work, which I'm fascinated by, so I look at his stuff a lot. And also I like that his background is so separated from his characters that his characters just stand out. Like everything he does just make this main character stand out, and and that's what I mean by think about the relationships between your subject and the background, because sometimes they could be separated or sometimes they could be one thing, um so yeah, that's some of the guys I look at. uh Hope that helps, and
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it for today. Thanks everyone
yeah.
for signing on. Thanks, Brent. That was so informative. Just 1 hour, I feel like I learned a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was planning on to go even further, but yeah, it's really helpful that I get to do some critique. So thank you for those who send in their work. It's really helpful for me as well to explain some of the stuff because it helps to see, how I change how I critique others. Because when I work on mine, it's all perfect, and you don't see anything, you know. But yeah, thank you everyone again for attending, and sign up for my workshop if you want to learn more.
Yeah, sign up, guys. Thank you so much, Brent.
Yeah, all right, thank you.